And of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So most of you know that this reading we have today is the prologue of the Gospel according to John, and it's beautifully written, and lots of people have said lots of things about it, but I'm going to try and distill the most important things that we get out of this. Mostly the characteristics that show up in John's Gospel are reinforced over and over again, and they're not the way at all that the other Gospels portray Jesus. The same truths are in all the Gospels, but the way they're portrayed is very different in John. So, first of all, John is very intimate, and every one of the encounters in the Gospel appears between two people, like they're on the stage with a Greek chorus behind them. So you're seeing one person being completely changed and affected by this intimate discussion with Jesus, and the crowd, going one way or the other, trying to distract us. And it happens here in the Gospel too, that even though Jesus is not speaking yet, we have this encounter with John the Baptist. You really can't miss it. He's there. And it's like a teaching in a class where you're learning how to say the creeds. Just so you know who Jesus is. He was in the beginning with God, not just part of creation, but the agency of God. So if you think of God as this human figure, godly human figure, and the word coming out of God's mouth to create the heavens and the earth and the light and the dark, the word itself coming from God's mouth is Jesus. That word is the creative agency of God. So that's pretty profound. It's not written of in that way in any of the other Gospels. And what this means is that this creative agency is who Jesus is. So what he is creating is always something new. You have an encounter with Jesus, and it's the first time you've had an encounter with Jesus, and it's happening for the first time to that particular individual. And you'll see characters in this story like Nicodemus, who comes to him at night. He is a Pharisee, and then gradually is courted and becomes a full member of the Christian followers of Jesus by the end of the Gospel. Also, we have other people that are convinced. Thomas, at the beginning, doesn't really get what's going on here. He's very concrete. And by the end of the Gospel, Thomas is the one who says after the resurrection, "My Lord and my God," giving him the title of God. That if you encounter Jesus, you're encountering God himself. But what happens between you and your encounter with Jesus is an intimate exchange that belongs just to you. So this intimacy is unique in John's Gospel. One of the ways the Gospel works, and is also present in this prologue, is that the word itself is the words on the page. It's actually the actual words. So that when you read or study John's Gospel, that's where you have your encounter with Jesus, the Word of God, popping off the page and giving you a conversion moment, if you will, that is unique and also part of the creation that Jesus is famous for. So it also says that Jesus is full of grace and truth, that he is the illuminator. He shines the light on something, so that he is the light itself. His being illumines what is true, and where there is no illumination, there is darkness and ignorance. So you're going to get a very black and white portrayal of Jesus in John, where wherever Jesus is, there is light and illumination and understanding, and wherever Jesus isn't, there's darkness and no light and confusion and chaos. So what we have at the beginning of this gospel is a little compact mini gospel. All the themes that are in this beginning continue throughout the gospel. But the most important one for us to remember is that this message is to be encountered again and again as if for the first time. So that you are encountering Jesus, not that old Jesus you learned about in Sunday school. Oh yeah, I remember him. And get tested on what happens in those Bible stories. It's brand new every time. That Jesus is catching you in a new place with new ailments and new challenges and new family situations. And Jesus has something new to say to that. So that while you're reading the gospel and seeing all these individual stories that create this beautiful panorama of who Jesus is, you're included in the panorama. We're part of that. That Jesus is coming through the Word into each of us, where we ruminate on it, great word, we ruminate on that, and let it do what it will do, which is to create something new and a new energy. And finally, in the prologue, as in the gospel, you have to make a choice. And this is what is so difficult for everybody, is to choose to take the right choice, which none of us do all the time. I often choose the easy out. And the easy out is often over there in the dark, and I don't realize it until I've fallen down in the pit, and I have to crawl out of the pit and get back to my track. But Jesus is always forgiving. We know that in these encounters we have with Jesus, we are creating something new with him, that he doesn't create without our participation. And that is an important part of Christmas, that Jesus came and walked among us, which changed the whole scenery of Christianity. It changed the whole scenery of the world. And each time any of us encounters the truth and that light bulb goes off, we send the good news. We walk with the good news, we write the good news, we share the good news, and it's creating another creation as we speak. So we are the carriers of that light. We prepared a manger for the baby Jesus to come and rest in our hearts at Christmas, and now we're going to take that light and not let anybody blow it out and take it into the world, being the place where those intimate encounters happen through us.